As a member of the Lebanese community in downtown Easton during the 40s and 60s was the happiest time of my life. The church was the center of our lives, and our faith was deeply embedded. Father Norman Peters founded a youth center, and under his guidance, many after-school activities were enjoyed. My parents owned a wholesale vegetable and produce business on Washington Street, and I split my time between working with my dad and helping my grandmother, who owned a grocery store and a boarding house for men. Every Saturday, we would open all the windows, clean the rooms, and not only change and wash the sheets, but upon her insistence, they had to be ironed on a wringer for hours. We would sit there ironing sheets. There were no shortages of Lebanese-owned businesses then. By that time, the Lebanese had become very successful. A successful beer distributorship was run by Raymond Burkott. My parents took over a produce distributorship from Monsieur Thomas. Grocery stores included Adele's, Abe's, Sheffy's, Bolus's, Cal Bader's, Foley, and Tash Tash on South 3rd Street. There was Pete Schumer's Bar, Pete Shaheen's Cafe, Budwig the Elite, the Wonder Bar, the Blue Anchor, Sabo's, Jake Sam's, the Sultan, Louis Cafe, Milham's Cafe, and the Statements in Peaburg. Our local meat markets were operated by Kimmel Visit and Latifah Thomas. Barry and Joe Isaac owned the Shoe Hospital. Bamite and George Jabor owned the clothing store in Bethlehem. Elias and Tony Simia and Naomi Joseph Shiner operated door-to-door, selling goods to people living in remote areas, restocking their trucks daily. The sight of our elderly women. You young guys, the youngsters here, you don't know what our elderly women went through. They dressed all in black, and they had these heavy backpacks, and they walked for miles and miles to the countryside selling their wares, and just walking and walking. It was really something. They really suffered. This was a vivid memory. I can still remember. I still remember Wardai and Nahuho and Kokia and Manouche. Joe Halbutai Barget. He was selling produce out of his truck. It comes to mind. Yvette and Duncy Jabor, Cal Bader, Andres Restaurant, and Joe Badway all operated restaurants. Joe Badway and his wife Delia, with the help of his daughters Barbara Fry and Eva Oliver, they operated Dolly's Restaurant, which became a favorite dining spot of travelers that rode the train. There was a big train station across the street, and Lafayette College students who became hooked on chicken and tune. Freddie Essett and Jimmy Badway ran our barbershops. Antoinette Sergi was the notary, while Frida, Antonia, KK, Florence Frangos, Georgette, Vicky Tone, and Lottie Najar were our very respected nurses. Victor Karam was our travel agent, and my uncles George and Louis Joseph were electricians. George Bolus, Joe Badway, Morris Badway, Wicky Isaac were the pharmacists, and Joey Jacob was our blood technician. Joe Thomas, Mike Corey, John Milham, and Antone Isaac were our respected teachers. And Milad Isaac, one of my generation, made our community very proud, becoming one of the best doctors around. Two octogenarians who are still very active and inspired many of our youth are attorney George Burkott and Dr. Elias Isaac. These are just a few of the memorable living and deceased of our community. Lehigh Street would be alive with people. My Uncle Izzy, Aziz Corey, and Pete Karam provided rooms where all our men would come and sit and play cards for hours and socialize, as well as discuss current affairs. In the summer, we would spend our days at Willow Park. where the adults congregated and played cards for hours on the grass while the kids played in the pool. You could witness your grandparents pounding meat in a Jurgen-Vergibbai, or as I witnessed my grandmother cutting the head off a chicken to prepare a meal, and its wings were still flapping. She cleaned and stuffed it while my Jido was making shish butter in the kitchen. Downtown Sidewalk Days. It was an annual event with merchandise was displayed outside and marked down to entice shoppers from all over the city to come. And the race was on, especially between our Lebanese women, to see who could scoop up the best buys. One year, Orr's department store was giving away a bike. All of us kids were so excited at the thought of winning it, because none of us had much. You know, we were all the same. And Mitch Jabir, who lived across the street from me, asked if I would sign his name on an entry form. I will never forget how excited he was when he found out that he was the winner. That memory is so vibrant that I would not give it up for all of Donald Trump's money. Rest in peace, my dear friend. I love you. Residents of the city would flock downtown. It was an opportunity to reminisce with old friends and meet new ones. Door-to-door salesmen, Charlie Chips, Tony's ice cream truck, Fuller Brush, and the milk being delivered right to your door are memories that come to mind. The Italian Holy Cross Band would march up Lehigh Street playing number 9, as many of our people would pin money on the flag depicting saints. Our doors were never locked, and you could not walk our streets without seeing our Lebanese all over on their porches. Unlike today, where many of us hardly see or know our neighbors. When we went to school, some of us went to St. Bernard's Catholic School on 6th Street. I can still remember sitting in Adele's store or Merlot's on 6th Street, playing hooky from going with my class to church on Friday, and then sneaking back in line when the nuns brought the kids back to go back to school. The other kids went to Taylor School, where St. John's is now. We would walk back and forth to school, and most of us came home for lunch. Taylor Playground was a hangout, and we spent many hours playing there. We went on to high school, some of us to Notre Dame, some of us to Easton High. In 1955, a devastating flood covered the lower part of our streets, where all our Lebanese lived. I can still remember the smell of the mud that covered my father's produce business. Our people were resilient and they recovered. It's with great pride that I recall many of our ancestors as precursors to many of the businesses of today. My grandparents, Uncle Bill and A.B. Bolus, made the best lemon ice that put Rita's to shame, besides putting our community on the map. People would come from all over to sample the street. When I was about 8 years old, I wanted to have my ears pierced. My mom sent me to our own piercing pagoda. I went to the back of the Blue Anchor Cafe, and Yaoub and Sadeh, Naomi's grandparents, welcomed me with hugs. Sadeh sat me down and proceeded to pierce my earlobe with a humongous chicken stuffing needle. Then inserting the white string, oiling it, and twisting it around and around. Then she proceeded to do the other one. There was only one problem. Her eyesight was failing. One hole was higher than the other. She proceeded to do it again. God bless her, this time she did it perfectly. The nuns in school were not too impressed, as all the girls came to inspect my ears, but changed their minds after I came with my new pierced earrings. When it came to sprains, Antonio's visit, who lived across the alley from Yaoub, was the man to see. When I hurt my wrist, he said it and told me to keep a slab of raw meat on it to reduce the swelling. I have heard many stories of his healing abilities. When it came to decorating wedding cards with dolls dressed in beautifully crocheted gowns, Maisel Haney and her sister Jeanette Shaheen could not be outdone. Next in my memory, is this getting too boring? No! All right, this one. Next in my memory bank is the Lebanese version of eHarmony, or Match, as it's called now. I personally experienced it while a senior in high school. My Aunt Dini and Uncle Izzy came to my house to ask my parents' permission to introduce me to a young Lebanese man that had seen me and their daughter Marion's wedding and wanted to meet me. I explained to them that I just got accepted to St. Joseph's Nursing School in Reading, and that after I graduated high school, I was flying the coop. They asked me to come meet him, and if I still was not interested, they wouldn't pursue it anymore. I agreed to meet him the next evening at their apartment. As I opened the door, I saw him sitting next to my future brother-in-law, Opi Karam. I immediately felt Cupid's arrow pierce my heart. Girls, don't let anyone tell you that there's no such thing as love at first sight. After 50 years of marriage, I am living proof of it. I can prove them wrong. I could feel my heart pounding and my legs were like jello. Opie took us out for coffee to Key City Diner to get to know each other, and sitting together in the back seat of the car, I could see him smiling in the rearview mirror looking at us. When they brought me home, yeah, Opie was something. I nervously went inside when they brought me home. My mother questioned me and I burst out crying. I asked her if the nursing school would refund all the money we spent on the uniforms. I could sense her relief, as she did not want her youngest daughter to go that far away. Thus began the next phase of my life. After graduating high school, I never got to nursing school. I married Yusuf Estefan and never regretted it, and bought a house on 9th Street. The only problem was we were one of only 4 Lebanese families, with Ramzi Joseph being one of the first families that lived there, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and I think Ed Joseph was living there, but I can't be sure. I was very sad because I feared that when I had children, that they would miss the experience I had of growing up in the Lebanese community. Soon the redevelopment came. Shortly afterwards, many of our neighbors from Lehigh and 4th Street relocated to the West Ward and the surrounding areas. Grapevines were planted. The aroma of meat and spinach pies and Arabic bread filled the air. The girls in the church dance troupe were invited to dance in Canada. The administration building on 8th Street became the hangout spot for our kids. Our summer nights, even the kids whose parents moved to other parts of the city, enjoyed visiting our neck of the woods. Just to show you how much the times had changed since I played hooky by hiding in a local candy store, our kids were taking off to get steak sandwiches at Pat's Steak in Philadelphia at lunchtime. No fear. We were Lebanese and we were proud. To the youngsters of today, please keep in mind that our ancestors were a great breed of hard-working, sacrificing, and religious and proud people to whom we owe so much. It is through their bravery in coming to this country, and their persistence to succeed that we have become who we are. Let us always remember them with love and continue to make them proud. Thank you to the Kfarsghab Club and all who made this beautiful night of memories possible.